Hi and welcome to this video which explains this 5-day presentation skills course. We'll look at the content, the aims and the objectives for each day. So let's have a look at day 1. The first thing we're going to do is have a look at what the student's current presentation style and content looks like and indeed sounds like. We'll also then examine how presenting actually makes them feel and why they might feel this way. So the kind of things that we'll look at here are things like speech anxiety, fight, flight or freeze, any physical responses they may have, and we'll also have a look at how they can limit any undesirable or negative effects they may feel when they're presenting. We're also going to have a look at where their style comes from and the impact that this can have. Some people develop a natural style and their own style quite early on. Other people will mirror somebody else's style of presenting. And we'll have a look at how these two main approaches can affect somebody's presentation style. We'll also go on to have a look at the 3 main elements of a presentation, namely the audience, the content and the presenter. Further considerations for an effective presentation that we're going to look at are the knowing your audience's knowledge base so that you can pitch your presentation at the right level, the timing of your delivery, how the venue impacts on your presentation style, media, and the way that you get your message across, the importance of a contingency, and also we'll start to look in more detail at you as the presenter. Okay, so moving on to day 2. We're going to start looking at actually planning a presentation. So the kinds of things that we're going to cover on this day are looking at the title versus the presentation aim, introductions, bodies, main themes and transitions, conclusions, the question and answer session, and where appropriate we'll also look at how you can review your presentation. So how do you know that your message has actually got across to your audience and have they actually understood it in the manner that you wanted it to be understood? Have they gone away with the right knowledge? So have your aims and objectives been met? We'll also look at the idea of how a presentation or a delivery should flow. So we'll look at the kind of things like audience signposting and making sure that there are natural linkages between the arguments and or the pieces of information that you're trying to get across. We'll also then go to have a look at the introduction in a little bit more detail. When I teach presentation skills, the main thing that students tell me that they get nervous about or that they want to go well is those first opening few minutes. So we're going to have a look at 8 different openings that you can use to start your presentation or your delivery. And these would be things like the traditional opening, a statistic, a topical argument, getting the audience to imagine or suppose a scenario, thought provocation, audience participation, imagery, and finally audio options. Okay, so on to day 3. Day 3 we're going to start to have a look at mix of media and why it's important that we use a mix when we're trying to get our message across. So alongside this we're going to have a look at the idea of VAC. So we're going to look at visual, auditory and kinesthetic ways that you can get your message across. Alongside this we'll look at Honey and Mumford's learning styles and also the work of Albert Mehabrin, who looked at words, tone and body language and how a combination of these enable your message to get across. We'll also look at the use of stories and metaphors, and then we'll go on to have a look at slides. And when we talk about slides, what I mean is traditional slides, PowerPoint slides, transparencies, prezzies, all those kind of things would come under slides. So specifically we'll have a look at fonts, the design, content, colours, imagery and also movement. We'll then go on to have a look in a little bit more detail about the visual and auditory elements that you could put in a presentation and the pros and cons of using these. We'll also have a look at an introduction to Prezi, and as you can see from my video today, that's how I like to get information across, and it does allow you to embed videos and can make a much more interactive presentation for the audience. We'll also add all of this work to the presentation preparation element that we saw on day 2. Okay, let's go and have a look at day 4. Day 4, we're going to have a look at the ideas and the notions of persuasion and credibility. And we'll have a look at the links between perceived expertise, relationships and credibility. We'll then go on to have a look at the persuasive speech, and we'll cover such things as how do we get the audience's attention, the persuasion map, what makes you credible, and how you can get your audience to actually act on something that you've said. As a result of this, we'll also get a chance to practice writing a persuasive speech. As I said before, one of the elements that students can get most concerned about is the opening part of their presentation. And when you ask them what their next main concern covers, they'll often say to me it's the question and answer session. So this is something that we also will cover in some detail. So I'll have a look at things like too many questions, or you don't know an answer, you've run out of time, you've finished too early, you ask for questions and nobody asks anything, or in the worst case scenario, you get heckled. And within this part of the course, we're also going to look at any other questions or concerns about presenting that students might have. And to turn this on its head, we're also going to have a look at how you can manage situations and actually use them to your advantage. And if that's done correctly, you can actually increase your professional standing and your credibility as a presenter. Okay, so finally we're going to have a look at the last day, and this is day 5. So we're going to do some final work on our presentation. So what we'll have is we'll have our initial starting point that we looked at on day 1, and then by day 5 we're going to re-present those initial presentations just to see how far we've come and to go through practicing all the skills that we've learned over these last 5 days. And we'll get feedback from both myself and our fellow students. We're also going to undertake a team challenge as well, and this will recap what we've learnt so far, and we're going to use this as an app-based competition. So students will have the opportunity to have a look at everything that we've done, and also a bit of light competition between all the students, which they seem to enjoy by this point once they've spent 5 days together. And we'll also end with some recaps from myself and any final questions or anything that the students would like to recover. So I hope you can see that this presentation skills 5-day course is very comprehensive. It covers all the different elements that anybody who has to give a delivery of any sort would need to have a look at. So as I said before, that could be from a small group of 5 or 6 people, all the way up to a presentation of 300-400 people. And the tools and techniques that you'll learn throughout this course are ones that you can use to your advantage on any of those situations. So I hope you've enjoyed this short video, and please contact me if you would like any further details. Thanks very much. Bye.